Okay, we're off to the races this morning. We're starting with some history. So everybody needs their history. We're in the 1962-63 season, and still, Montreal is the best team in the league in the regular season. Things change in the playoffs again. Montreal finishes first, 42-14-14. Toronto finishes second, 37-22-11. Chicago's third, 31-26-13. These three teams stay in the same spot from the year before. The Rangers managed to get in the playoffs, 26-32-12, because they passed Detroit, who's 23-33-14. So again, and we'll get to them. Again, the bottom three stays relatively the same. Detroit falls down, allows the Rangers into the playoffs, and Boston's nowhere near at 15-47-8. It's brutal. The defense, the goaltending is just brutal for Boston at this stage of the game. Hard to believe this team will be winning Stanley Cups within a decade. Hard to believe. February 10th, 1962, Jacques Plante is the first to record 7 30-win seasons. Kind of a big deal back then, I would think. Bobby Hull hit 50 goals to tie the record, so nobody's passed 50 goals, but we've now got 3 guys at 50. Mikita set the record with 21 points and 15 assists in the playoffs in a season that Chicago didn't win, but 21 points broke Gordie Howe's record of 20. So Mikita is now your leader in playoff points in one season. November 26, 1961, Gordie Howe becomes the first player to play 1,000 games. So Gordie Howe, a lot of firsts for him. First to 1,000 points, first to 1,000 games. As this series continues, we'll see what else he is a first to get to for milestones. And January 17th, 1962, Glenn Hall starts in goal for his 500th straight game. No one's ever going to get close. That's right near the end of that streak. And, of course, Glenn Hall's going to end up moving around a little bit. Before it's all said and done right now, he is entrenched in Chicago. First and second team All-Stars. First team, Stan Mikita, Andy Bathgate, Bobby Hull. Harvey has been moved to the Rangers. So Doug Harvey is now a player/assistant coach for the New York Rangers. Talbot is first team blue line, and Jacques Plante first team goaltender. Second team, Davey Keon, Gordie Howe, Frank Mahovlich, Carl Brewer, Pierre Pilote, and then Glenn Hall in net. So there you go, your first and second team All-Stars. There's some Toronto flavor in here. And of course, as I've said, Davey Keon, one of the greats, and his divorce from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Once it happens, we'll discuss. Jacques Plante is your Hart Trophy winner. So goaltender being your Hart winner. Art Ross Trophy goes to Bobby Hull of the Chicago Blackhawks. The Norris Trophy goes to Doug Harvey, now of the New York Rangers. The Calder Trophy goes to the Montreal Canadiens, Bobby Rousseau. The Vezina goes to Jacques Plante for Montreal, and the Lady Byng goes to Davey Keon of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So this sets the stage for the playoffs. Chicago plays Montreal in the first round. Chicago third, Montreal first. Let's see if Montreal can overcome them this season. Montreal wins Game 1 and Game 2 at home, 2-1, 4-3. Games 3 and 4 are in Chicago. Chicago wins both, 4-1 and 5-3. Chicago then wins in Montreal, 4-3. And then Glenn Hall says, I've got it from here, and gets a shutout in Game 6 to take Montreal out in the first round again. So, an old rivalry we don't see anymore is Chicago-Montreal. I'm imagining back in the 60s, some rather tense games between these two teams. Because Montreal, the powerhouse in the regular season, the one that had won 5 straight Stanley Cups, Chicago ended that in yesterday's video, and now today they've ended their chance of getting 6 and 7 years. The Rangers play Toronto, wonky schedule with the Rangers, what a surprise. Games 1 and 2 are in Toronto. Toronto wins both, 4-2 and 2-1. Games 3 and 4 are in New York. New York wins 5-4 and 4-2. Games 5 and 6 are both in Toronto. Toronto wins in double overtime 3-2, and then wins Game 6 7-1. Maybe there was a circus mix-up and circus animals were playing in their place. I don't know, but losing 7-1 in a Game 6 is tough. And yet, when you look at the standings, realistically, Toronto was the better team than the New York Rangers. So even if Game 6 had been played in New York, as is usually the schedule, it should have been fine. The Stanley Cup Final goes back to its regular format, not back and forth between cities. And Toronto wins both games at home, 4-1 and 3-2. Chicago wins both games in Chicago, 3-0 and 4-1. So we got a 2-2 series. Toronto then wins 8-4 in Game 5. And in Game 6, they win in Chicago 2-1 to win the Stanley Cup on the road in 6. So the Toronto Maple Leafs, these guys right here, win themselves a Stanley Cup in 1962. It's not their last, but sadly for Leaf fans, it is getting close. But Davey Keon's leading the way. They've got Johnny Bower in net. All things are coming up Maple Leafs right now. And for Habs fans, yeah, you guys are coming back. All these first place finishes, and now the last 2, they haven't made it out of the first round. It's just making them angrier. But we'll get to that. Anyways, there you go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just tap upon this video. And hey, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.